Before I start this video, I'd like to preface that I have never played a Mega Man game before, and the extent of my knowledge of Mega Man is limited to the sequelitis that Egoraptor made on the series a while back, and the fact that Mega Man is in Smash. I also want to make this video as digestible as possible, so whether you're a seasoned Mega Man fan or have never heard of the series before, I want to ensure that everyone can still understand where I'm coming from. So I got this game, with a collection of others, on Humble Bundle a few months back, and I thought that it would be a perfect game to review for the channel. I also want to mention that I did not abuse save states in order to uphold the authenticity of the original experience. Just wanted to get that out of the way, so without further ado, enjoy! Mega Man is a game that initially released in 1987 for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and I believe that it, along with Mario and other games, set precedents for what platformers should be. I think that this was a very important step in gaming. However, I found out the hard way that Mega Man has a different defining characteristic. Mega Man is hard. Mega Man is very hard. This game does not tell you what to do. All you know is that you're a jump and shoot man, and you gotta jump and shoot the bad guys. Seems simple enough. Only problem is that the bad guys will fuck you up. The controls are difficult to get used to at first if you've never played a Mega Man game before, but once you do, they feel pretty intuitive and natural. That is if you don't like hitting your enemies. I opted to change my controls, however, because I felt that the standard PC controls were kind of clunky and I constantly mixed up the jump and shoot buttons. So I changed my jump button to space for my thumb, my shoot button to Q for my pointer finger, and W for rapid fire right next to it. These controls I found to be much more comfortable, so do with it what you will. Also, rapid fire was so helpful, by the way. Now, Mega Man is divided into 6 stages, named after the bosses that each stage possesses and are themed after their respective boss. Mega Man has a unique ability that once he defeats a boss, he can absorb their ability and is then able to use it for himself. Some elements are strong against others, making the boss fights much easier and in turn making doing some stages before others more optimal. This is one of Mega Man's key characteristics, and one that I did not know existed until the end of the game. That's right, seasoned Mega Man fans. I played through almost the entire game without using any of Mega Man's abilities. Oh my god, I do not recommend that anyone does this. It makes the game so difficult that it's almost stupid. I cannot tell you how much easier the game was when I actually started using my abilities. You see, on an NES controller, there are 4 buttons apart from the D-pad, so the developers probably assumed that at some point you'd eventually push all of the buttons, you know, because there's only 4. But in case you haven't noticed, there are a bit more than 4 keys on a keyboard, so I never thought that there was anything more than just jump and shoot, because I never had to do anything more than that. That was until I hit a roadblock and had to use Gutsman's rock ability, which opened up the entire system to me and made me realize that the game was not as stupidly hard as I had previously thought, even though it's still plenty difficult. So yeah, keep in mind that my experiences with this game are mostly based on me not using Mega Man's abilities, and are based on me shooting lemons at everybody, regardless of how non-optimal a strategy it may have been for most encounters. Starting off the game, I decided to do the stages in order beginning with Cutman and ending with Elecman, even though you can do the stages in any order, and I think that's really freaking cool. Cutman served as a tutorial stage for me, getting used to the controls and realizing that these guys are fucking annoying. Anyway, it's kind of a climbing stage with a really cool design, and I definitely could have picked a worse stage to start with. Cutman wasn't too difficult compared to the rest of the game, but beating a boss is very rewarding, and I may have gotten a little bit too excited. Yes! I did it! Oh, I'm so pumped! Playing Gutsman's stage was when 2 things became apparent to me. One, that each level had to be memorized in order to beat it. What I mean by that is that you have to play the level so many times that you basically become an expert on the level, and that you learn the most optimal strategy in order to complete it. And 2, that you have to figure out a strategy for each boss, otherwise you're gonna get freaking smacked. At least that's what you have to do when you don't know that abilities exist. Regardless, the stage was actually pretty good despite a couple of annoyances like the conveyor belt, and I was able to move on. Next was Iceman, and oh god, where do I even start with Iceman? I hate this stage. I absolutely hate it. At least my experiences with it anyway. It's worse than Elecman's stage, but at least I was able to cheese Elecman. To give you context, this level took me almost 3 hours to beat, which is the same amount of time that How Long to Beat says this whole game should take to complete. It's a slippery ice level that has these annoying platforms and these irritating helicopter things. These things are by far the worst part of the game, and they've costed me many deaths and 2 rage quits. They have sporadic and unpredictable patterns and will literally just cuck you sometimes. The level is annoying enough on its own, but the boss battle took difficulty to a new meaning. The jumps are so precise, and he takes so little damage from your pellets that it's pitiful. Not only that, but you'll take a colossal amount of damage for any mishaps. I found that replaying the stage every time I messed up was an enormous waste of time and sanity, so I farmed outside the boss room for a life every time I died. This was very tedious. I also think it's important to note that Iceman does not have to be this difficult. You can easily obliterate him with the Elecman power-up, but I did not know this at the time. After that was Bomb Man stage, and this level is extremely straightforward. I mean, walk forward and jump and shoot! It wasn't too easy, but it wasn't so difficult that it made you want to yank your hair out. Fireman stage had a much more interesting atmosphere, and it was also pretty straightforward like Bomb Man stage. This boss battle was kind of devoid of any strategy though, basically being a contest of who can damage boost the most. Still, two very engaging levels. Elecman stage was kind of annoying. I mean, it wasn't as bad as Iceman, but it still had a combination of some memorization platforms, irritating enemies, and some design choices that weren't exactly player friendly. Also, the boss was another one that was supposed to be met with a weakness, but like I mentioned earlier, I cheesed the heck out of this fight. Yeah, the AI isn't always the brightest. Elecman's electricity shot has a huge hitbox, which was annoying to fight, but came in handy when it was eventually part of my arsenal. All in all, not the worst stage, but was definitely one of the more frustrating points in my playthrough. Now once you've beaten all 6 stages, Dr. Wily's stage opens up for the ultimate challenge, and it was here that I hit the roadblock and realized I had an entire weapon cache at my disposal. Also, now knowing what these crates were for, I went back to Elecman stage to pick up this weird gun-looking thingy locked behind the same crates that blocked my path here, and I am so glad that I did. This thingy was actually a platform beam that I would need once I got to a point of no return in Wily's stages, which there are 4 of, by the way. The first of Wily's stages proved to be very difficult, requiring me to use many of my abilities in order to get to the boss. This was also where I encountered the second set of helicopter platforms, which are honestly the most anti-player contraptions in a video game. Eventually, you'll make your way to the boss, the Yellow Devil, and this is essentially the Iceman fight, but it's actually supposed to be this hard. I used Elecman's bolt for an extended hitbox, and you have to basically memorize and dodge his body parts flying at you with frame-tight jumps, along with dodging his beam while managing to inflict damage. This is not an easy battle, but you'll eventually beat him and move on to Wily 2. Now for me, Wily 2 proved to be less challenging but more intimidating. It was pretty difficult, no doubt, but the intimidation comes from the fact that you have to fight multiple of the previous bosses and then a final boss on top of that. This would have been much more frustrating if I had not been in a Discord call with somebody who happened to know all of the weaknesses. It was extremely helpful. Thank you, Grant. You saved my sanity. Anyway, you have to do a bit of platforming as well as fighting Cutman and Elecman, which I was able to actually dispose of because of the knowledge of their weaknesses. And then after them, you have to face the boss yourself. I kinda cheesed him a bit because his AI is, not exactly smart, but you do eventually have to put in some elbow grease. There's not really much to say about Wily 3. It's really just gotta go fast. It was actually really easy, but the boss fight is the challenging part. I'ma call this guy Bubble Guppy. Bubble Guppy definitely gave me some trouble, but it wasn't anything I couldn't handle. I just needed some luck. Now, Wily 4 was one of the hardest stages. It's also the last one in the game, so it's understandable. Like all of the other stages, you have to adapt to a pattern in order to beat it, but this one really gave me a run for my money. I'd say that Wily 1 and Wily 4 are about on par in difficulty. So you have to do a fair bit of platforming and fending enemies. Once you're done with that, you have to fight 4 bosses in succession before facing Wily, being Bomb Man, Fireman, Iceman, and Gutsman respectively. Keep in mind that there is no restoration to health here. However, it wasn't as insanely difficult as it may sound. For instance, Iceman gave me a lot of trouble in his stage, but here, there's an optimal strategy that I'm using. Regardless, once you get to Wily, you'll discover that his battle is very quick but extremely challenging at the same time. My successful run took only 30 seconds, and when I beat it, I got a little excited. Fuck you, Wily! I did it! I did it! I did it! I beat him! I think I beat the game. I got an achievement. Mega Man has ended the evil domination of Dr. Wily and restored the world to peace. However, the never-ending battle continues until all destructive forces are defeated. Fight, Mega Man, for everlasting peace. In my opinion, that is powerful. I think it highlights that even though the difficulty was annoying at times, you overcame the obstacles and you came out on top. And I think that sort of thing is extraordinary. I think that it's because of the difficulty that you feel this way when you beat it. It was not easy to get here, and the game wants you to know that. This ending, especially its theme, is a sweet little reward for all of the hardships you have gone through by playing this video game. It's one of those games that many play, but not all can beat, or at least have found the perseverance to complete. It gives self-fulfilling satisfaction that you did it, and you should be proud of that. This is something that I feel that many games nowadays lack, because games back then didn't need to be less difficult or simplified for a larger audience. They just presented their best ideas. All it really took to beat this game was some patience, dedication, and a little bit of determination. I think that this game is amazing, and it certainly warrants the bajillion sequels that were made afterwards. I definitely recommend that everyone tries this game, but only if you're up for a challenge, because believe me, this game will challenge you. I think that the Mega Man Legacy Collection is the best way to play it, and even though I enjoyed the PC port, I did have an issue with it. Anytime I would close the game and go to open it up again at any point, it would always crash and wouldn't let me boot it up. The only solution to this was to restart my computer, and even that didn't fix it all of the time. I've seen people talk about this on the Steam forums, and as far as I could tell, there's no solution to this. I don't think it happens to everybody, but people talk about how they don't update or fix these ports, so I'd say that the PC port is at worst unpredictable. Other than that, I think it's possibly the best way to play the game. So go play Mega Man. It's good. I might do the same sort of thing for Mega Man 2 if the reception for this video goes well, but I have a few videos I want to work on first, plus this video kind of drained me because Mega Man is not exactly easy. Hopefully they won't take as long as this one though. I really appreciate if you sat through and watched this whole thing. A lot of work went into it. And if you want to show your support, hit that like button or the subscribe button or just let me know what you thought. Trust me, it really does go a long way. Anyway, thank you for watching. There's definitely going to be more content similar to this in the future, so it'd be awesome if you'd stick around. Alright, I'm gonna get out of your hair now, so peace y'all.